Hey everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an angel therapy practitioner, intuitive astrologer, Reiki master, and empowerment coach. And I'm here today, October 1st, 2021, with your October heavenly horoscopes. And it is sizing up to be quite a month. A lot of things that are going to culminate this next few months. And I say culminate, it feels like dominoes. So while one domino falls, another one will fall. And in such a way that if we've lined our dominoes up in a way that promotes what we want to experience, it's going to be something that I think will feel very positive, and at the same time there will be an amount of disruption. So let me explain to you why I say that. Today we start the month with the planet Mercury, which is in retrograde. During retrogrades, it's a time to review, to reevaluate, to rest, to relax, to rejuvenate. It is an intense aspect to Pluto in Capricorn. And Pluto represents death and rebirth. It represents astrology, the occult, the unseen. It represents a deep emotional body, the face we don't necessarily show to the outside world, the things that happen in private. And Mercury representing, our thoughts, the way we speak, the way we, what we read, what we saturate ourselves with, also our everyday activities. So this dynamic, while it's only going to last a day or so, is going to start kicking off this, am I enjoying what I'm doing? Am I enjoying my days? Am I enjoying my time? Am I using this lifetime the way that I want to, or am I in some sort of routine that has become a habit? Because I think what Mercury wants is in Libra is to create more harmony and balance and more fairness in what's happening in my everyday life, even in my everyday communications. And Pluto is more than willing to put a bomb in anything that's not working. So this feels a little disruptive, but if you can keep your sight up, it will make sense in hindsight. On the 4th, we are going to go into what they call a trine, which is a very favorable aspect. This time, Mercury is talking to Jupiter, the planet of faith, the planet of expansion, the planet of good luck and wealth, in a favorable way. So the revelations that have taken place over the next few days with Mercury squaring Pluto can start to show benefit as it makes this harmonious aspect to Jupiter in Aquarius. On the 6th, we have Pluto going direct in Capricorn. Pluto has been a major player in the last probably decade, at least probably since 2012. And while I'm not going to go into a history lesson, Pluto is creating dynamics right now, which may feel scary because it's a very vulnerable time to the changes that are going on our planet. But it's also a time to re-empower the human as the co-creator of their experience. And I think that's the ultimate gift that Pluto has to offer us. So what's been happening over the last few weeks, if not month, because Pluto's a slow-moving planet, is it's been slowing down and almost like standing still, staring at us to look at our lives and to look where there needs to be renovation. As it turns direct, it's going to now continue through Capricorn and moving in a way that's asking us to truly look at the structures in our lives. This is also happening October 6th on a new moon in Libra. So this is really about, how do I create fairness? How do I create compromise, but without giving up the things that I want? How do I start to implement in a way that feels rooted? Because Capricorn and Libra will always square each other naturally. They'll always have a tense conversation. And at the same time, did I just say Saturn and Capricorn? I meant Capricorn and Libra will naturally always square. The houses naturally always square themselves. But this is an opportunity because Saturn is what they call exalted in Libra. It actually loves being in Libra. So it's a weird mind meld. The houses square each other, but the ruling planet of Capricorn loves Libra. So this square has an opportunity to create a corner to a foundation. And as Saturn goes direct, as Pluto goes direct in Libra, Saturn will follow on the 10th. And again, we've got these slowing down of these slow moving planets that are asking us to truly reevaluate from an upper perspective, not to judge and not to criticize, but to surrender to the caterpillar and its transformation into the butterfly, because the caterpillar must die in order for the butterfly to have life. These two aspects are major. They have been as they went retrograde in the springtime, it was a reevaluation. And as we move into the fall and the winter of 2021 into 2022, we're going to see more of this renovation of our lives in how we're going to start to adapt to the conveniences that we have experienced. Some of that being initially a burden, AKA working from home. I want to go on to the 18th when Jupiter and Mercury will go direct. Jupiter, the planet of expansion of my beliefs, of education, of faith. It's represented by the star in the tarot deck, and Mercury, what I think, again, now moving direct. 4 planets in 1 month within 2 weeks going direct. It's a lot of powerful energy that in some ways propels us into a new way of being. It is requiring us to adapt or die. And I don't mean that literally, I mean that figuratively, but as we adapt our perceptions, we allow for things to become more open and expansive, even when the world itself feels like it's contracting. We will have a full moon in Aries on the 20th. I'm going to do individual videos for the new and full moon. That's my intention moving forward. And then the last week of the month is relatively, right now it looked fairly quiet to me. There were no startling aspects that were going to make us feel wobbly. So I think that as we move towards the end of the month, when the sun moves into Scorpio on the 23rd and Mars moves into Scorpio on the 30th, we're going to start to see ourselves want to take action on the things that we have been evaluating, we've been reviewing, I feel like one of the most powerful things that's going on for this transit is our own participation in some of the situations that have brought us challenges. And as we review our perception and how does that challenge actually work for me? Because at the very minimum, a challenge will give you an experience that lets you know that you can pivot, or that you can find the resources that you need, or that you can recover. And that is a much more stable place as you achieve, to know that you have that under your belt. Effortless achievement feels very, it almost feels like it's setting me up for insecurity, because I'm not sure if things aren't going well, how I will respond. So being aware of your own being energy this month. I also want to say that during this full moon, there is the potential for there to be this feeling of crankiness in the workplace. There's a feeling of, as Mars creeps up on the sun, there's this feeling of a clash of power a bit. So be mindful if people around you are a little impatient. You may be the one who feels impatient, and do your best to stay in a conscious energy so that you can take precautions, so that if you need to contact somebody or have a meeting with somebody that you have challenges with, you can maybe schedule that on a day that would be more productive for you. All right, so that's the big things going on in October, and they will be leading us into November and December in very powerful ways. So let's go on to our angel readings for the month. We're going to start with Aries and work our way towards Pisces. I like to think of it as Aries rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Stellium is 4 or more planets if you're doing a strict line of thought, 3 or more planets in one sign or house. This is an indication of a strong intention within this lifetime, something that you want to address either for your benefit or for your, well, it's always for your benefit. Sometimes that benefit comes through a challenge. Sometimes it comes through the realization of a talent that you had taken for granted. All right, so let's start with our Aries. Your ruling planet Mars is having some chats this month. So our first angel is Ariel in the foundational position. In the opportunity or the obstacle is Xana, the angel of protection. We have in the angel's advice, Vanessa, saying when you make your decisions based on faith or fear, and then Isaiah indicating a new beginning starting and being open to those changes. We're going to join Ariel with the Water Fairy. Xana is being joined by the Grail Knight. Vanessa is being joined by the Novice. And Isaiah is being joined by the Fear card. Aries is the warrior by nature. Most people talk about Aries, they talk about aggression, they talk about blunt, sort of unemotional feelings. It's sort of like, these are the facts, ma'ams, don't like if you like it, here it is, this is what I think. I believe that there's a deeper dynamic to Mars. I believe that Mars has a tendency to make us want to have a knee-jerk reaction to things that we hear that don't feel authentic. And so as Ariel and the Water Fairy stand in the foundational position for this month for Aries, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums, you have an opportunity to dig deeper into what you know on an intuitive level and what you know on an emotional level. And I feel that this is actually not about disclosing this information to another human being or about schooling anybody, because I think that there is something about you allowing whatever illusions are being revealed. Pluto will reveal illusions as it goes direct, and know you're being protected. And I want to offer it this way, because sometimes the illusion is that we are having an emotional response to something that we've evolved past. So Aries, I say this because there are certain relationships within my own life that I have an emotional habitual response to. When I'm in an argument with this particular individual, I have a tendency to feel sad, quote unquote. Now, as I look at the evolved version of myself and remove the illusion of sadness, I realize that I have a new perception. And maybe that's one of relief, or maybe that's one of reconciliation about it is what it is. Because it's time, according to the angels, to make your decisions based on a higher vibration and allow for this unstable new beginning that is directly related to what you know on an intuitive level versus the action that you're taking, very quick action. Mars wants to move quickly, because in this, again, Isaiah offering a new beginning, but it's a new beginning that is giving birth to new ideas, new situations. And now we're transforming the idea of fear being something that is pulling us under to recognizing that we can face everything and rise to the occasion, rise to the truth of what is authentic to our hearts. The world at large is going through an ascension. And I don't think that that ascension is about going from a low place to a high place as much as it's a realization that challenges serve us, that fear is sometimes the very thing that gives us the feeling of achievement, of exhilaration, of accomplishment, and learning how to balance those two vibrations of love and fear. And when fear most tanks us, and when we look for love most outside of ourselves, is when we are really truly in the lane that allows for our individual expression. Aries is courageous. Aries is the pioneer. Aries will go into uncharted territory. But sometimes within the process of the machete fighting through the jungle, Aries can sometimes miss the beauty of the jungle. So that's where I'm going with this. Let's go on to our Taurus, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Again, I'm going to repeat, a stellium is 3, more or less 4 planets in one sign or house. And I want to offer it this way because outer planets, Pluto, Uranus, Neptune, they move very slowly, and they're generational in some ways. They represent the collective and a collective intention. If you have a stellium with, say, Venus, Mars, Mercury, your moon, your sun, those are going to be more personal to you, and the stellium will be personal to your life's journey versus if you've got 3 or 4 planets in those, one of those are outer planets, or 2 or 3 are outer planets. It's going to be you plus the collective. Hope that made sense. All right, Taurus, here we go. Sorry, my throat was getting dry. Oops. I feel like the title of this video should be Heavenly Horoscopes, October's Opportunities and Obstacles, because it's going to be a mixed bag. And depending upon your perception, it's going to make it easier or harder. All right, Taurus. Here we go. Our first angel is Ray. The second is Archangel Gabriel. The third is Patience. And the final is Xana. Taurus is known as a fixed sign, which means that once Taurus has a certain experience or perception, it does not shift that easily. It's also known as very loyal and dependable. It's ruled by Venus, and it rules the second house. And the second house inadvertently rules history. It rules our family history and history at large. So Taurus will remember these things. And I think this is going to come into play because if we are remembering things from a more challenged perception, we may get stuck in that perception, and it's time to evolve our perception, catch up with it. Ray is being joined by the B card in the foundational position. Archangel Gabriel is being joined by the history card, the Baird. The Patience card is being joined by restriction. And Xana is being joined by the Water Fairy. I am a Taurus moon, and I have come to learn a lot about how I emotionally process things. I can be very stubborn, and I can remember things like an elephant. And if things don't feel like they've come into balance in an imbalanced situation, I will hang on to it to my own detriment. So I say that because Ray is, while she talks about yoga and exercise being powerful for your experience, and that may be true for Taurus for the month of October to start some sort of routine. Yoga and meditation is very reflective, but it's also, we've got our power center, our power chakra attached to the third eye as represented by the yellow stripe. We've got the green stripe representing our heart chakra, and then the blue representing our voice chakra. And the being energy is what the bee represents. It also represents sweet victory. So as you're aware of your connection to spirit is where your power lies, and your being energy. What is your belief? What is your attitude? What is your disposition as you walk into a situation? Because these big planets that are moving forward in October, Pluto, the planet of rebirth, the phoenix rising from the ashes, Saturn, the planet of rules, restrictions, limitations, loneliness, and depression, and Jupiter have all been retrograde. Jupiter representing expansion, wealth, faith, a belief in the bigger picture. Because Taurus, your obstacle is being stuck in your story. It's being stuck in what has happened before. The bird represents history. It also represents the enchantment of storytelling. But when you put it in combination with Archangel Uriel helping me address unforgiveness and anger and frustration, I see here that it's my story that's really tripping up my opportunity to receive and to move into a dynamic where I feel more love. I feel more appreciation from the outside world coming in, because patience card is about observation. And then we have the restriction card. And as I saw this, it reminded me of Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now. Years ago, I was reading that book, and I was, I read it over a few months or a month, whatever it was, but I was one day doing laundry, and in the laundry room, I was arguing with every person who had ever done me wrong. I felt like a sniper at the top of a building, going from one person to another, just in my mind, going, you did this to me and you did that to me. That is Taurus right here, especially a Taurus moon, which I am. So did that moment serve me? There was no one in that room. There was no way to reconcile the situation. It was just chewing up the moments of my life. And I think that's what Spirit is asking Taurus to review, because Saturn is offering you an opportunity to lift the restriction, to start to see that you've evolved past those moments. And now you could habitually be having a perception, an emotion that you really don't need to have anymore, because those situations are over. And Zan is telling you you're being protected from emotional harm. And it's now time for Taurus to start to sit in the transformed version of that, to start to sit in the coziness of what Venus, your ruling planet, has to offer you. You know, if you think about it, the greatest to me, the second house also rules the voice, singing, it rules music, allowing yourself to put yourself into your cozy jammies or listen to good music and pamper yourself a little bit as you recognize that you have been a little bit of the co-creator of your own discomfort. And the recognition of that is the transformation of it. And in that transformation, you can move in a new direction. So Taurus, while it may feel a little bit uncomfortable this month to see that mirror a bit, it also is liberating. So take advantage of that, because you have been going through liberation as Uranus has been transiting Taurus for the last couple of years and will continue for the next couple. All right, let's go on to our Geminis. Our first angel in the foundational position is Celeste. Second is Archangel Uriel. The third is Isaiah. And the final is Athena. All right, Gemini. Celeste is being joined by the king. Archangel Uriel is being joined by the novice. Isaiah is being joined by the communications card. And Athena is being joined by the partnership card. Okay. As I look at this, I feel like Celeste represents a move to a new home or a new place of employment, ushering in new energies. But more times than not, I recognize it as a shift in the way I'm thinking. And I say that because you can move my physical body to any location on this planet, and my belief system is going to dictate my actions and my perception of those actions. And the king, while it could represent a man at this point, I think it represents justice and fairness. I also think it represents a man, but more like an archetype of a partner versus male versus female, and shifting to a way of thinking about fairness in partnership for Gemini, because there may be a sense of frustration that has been happening, but I think it's because, again, I'm seeing this idea of this, all these retrograde planets are bringing up old dynamics, and inadvertently, as they move forward, the habit may be to perceive them from yesteryear, from the story, from the history they come from, because now is a time to check into the unstable new beginning and to really ask yourself if you're frustrated or angry because of this situation, or rather you're fearing an old situation is going to be projected onto a new dynamic. Because Isaiah is asking you in the angel's advice to give birth to new ideas and new situations and to know you're being protected. And then there's the communications card. And I feel like humans get into relationships and partnerships, and we start to interact and we start to talk, and we get used to, very quickly we establish a pattern. You call me every day, you call me every morning, you say good night to me every night, or every morning when you walk into the office, you say good morning, would you like some coffee? And then one day I don't do that. And instead of thinking from a bigger perception that there could be something outside of you going on, Gemini, you may inadvertently default to an old habit. Because I think what Spirit is saying for you is it's time to lovingly assert yourself in partnership, to start to think in a way that's more fair and just. And I'll put it this way. If indeed you're in a new relationship, then maybe what you get to do is observe this person and how they show up, or how this situation plays out, rather than predisposing how it's played out before and bracing. I feel like I'm asking Gemini to open up their mind to a shift, to kind of assess that your ruling planet Mercury is in retrograde, so communications could be wonky, but it also gives me an opportunity to review if what I'm talking to myself about is really relevant to this new situation, or if it's based on an old dynamic. And if I'm inadvertently going back to an old dynamic, am I, Gemini, trying to brace myself and inadvertently putting up a wall of energy that is blocking what I want? Because I don't think it's about communicating fears. I don't think it's about talking to the outside. It's about checking in on the inside as to whether or not the new situation is an evolved version, and you actually are moving closer and closer to the things you want to experience. And I want to offer this to you, because if indeed this is a job, a move to a new home or a new place of employment, it may involve a man. And it may involve a man that in the past has been frustrating, and this may offer a new beginning, because there's an interesting feeling of everyday activities. So some of you may be experiencing something in your work life that is with the same cast of characters, and yet it's up to you to give new life to the cast of characters in an evolved version. And if the characters cannot behave evolved, you can. And that's what this is about. So I'm addressing this in two ways: love and professional. All right, let's go on to our Cancers. I can't tell you how pivotal this time is for all of us in the way of evolution and being aware of our evolution, not keeping going back to tell an old story of ourselves. We all talk about we're working on this and we're working on that. When do we enjoy all the work we've done? All right, Cancer, let's see. So, Cancer, rising moon, sun and stelliums. We have Isabella in the foundational position. We have Ray in the opportunity or the obstacle, Archangel Gabriel in the angel's advice, and Bridget in the final position. There's a lot of tension in the month of October. There's a lot of energies of unconscious energies of feeling unsafe. And we inadvertently as humans look to ourselves as if we are it all starts with us. And while we are co-creators in our experience, we've got to remember that if you're swimming in the ocean, you only have so much influence. The ocean has more influence, and so does the masses. So take a second look. Isabella, yes, the timing is right for this new venture to start to look at your history, your story, and if it's still true today. Ray is asking you to have the courage to be more honest with yourself. And I want to say it this way, because if we've been telling a story of poor, pitiful me, maybe it's time to stop telling that story, because it's kicking in a law of attraction. Because Archangel Uriel and the angel's advice is asking Cancer to really look at their thoughts. The wind fairy is joining Archangel Uriel. So where are your thoughts focused? And I'm not saying that any of the story you're telling yourself is not true, but does the focus of that story move you where you want to be, or does it tether you to where you've been, which you did not like? Because Bridget is being joined by the protection card. So this is why I think this is such a pivotal month for everyone. We've seen some common themes here of frustration and anger with our first, 4 signs. Yeah, 4 signs. And I want to say this because there was, again, for me, a situation recently where I had a habit of feeling sad in that situation. And when I really took a second look, I realized I felt relief and more empowered by my own perception. So Cancer, this is the Baird. This is my story. This is the story I tell myself. And if it's been a sad story, or a story where you are having to be obligated to a situation you don't particularly like, it's time to start to tell a new story, a story of liberation, a story of freedom, a story of evolvement, because Spirit is here asking you to have the courage, because sometimes the courage is to walk away from a relationship that we don't think we should walk away from, or walk away from a perception within a relationship that we don't think we should. And let me give you an example. Cancer, you rule home and hearth, you rule nurturing. So you may be an extremely nurturing person who actually wants to be nurtured back. And your story has been that I must nurture, I must nurture. And what if you just don't nurture to the extent where you're actually nurturing with an expectation of being nurtured back? Because you can turn that nurturing onto yourself. And Spirit will, because this is, again, my power center connected to my third eye, to my heart, and to the way I speak. And here, I know that the way that Cancer is speaking and the way that they're thinking about a situation is causing resentment and frustration on some level. And I'm not surprised, because we've had Pluto, the planet of death and rebirth, making immense oppositions in Capricorn to Cancer, like excavating everything that's been out of balance. Because if Cancer has been giving with an unsaid need to receive, then they haven't been getting what they need, because somewhere on the other side, somebody smells it on an unconscious level and they are repelled. They're not following through. Because here we have Bridget asking Cancer to look deeper and to know in some ways you're being protected, because this willingness to look deeper and to own your own stuff, and not in a way that you're judgy and saying to yourself, I'm a bad person. That's not it at all. But let's say that you have, Cancer, a perception that you're not good enough. No matter what you do, no matter how hard you try, everybody on the other side, it's not good enough. You always fall short. That's the history you remove. It's the opportunity for you to really look at that perception. I'm never good enough, no matter how hard I try, and start to take accountability for that and shift. I'm doing my best, and that's all I can do. And I love myself for that. And in that, you may inadvertently give other people an energetic ripple effect that drops the dominoes, that they stop criticizing whatever efforts you are making. I would like to be able to say that, all these readings are going to be fuzzy and warm and usher in, rom-coms and, princes on white horses and princesses with no bad attitudes, but it's not that way right now. This is a time in our lives and our soul's evolvement where we're excavating what doesn't work, and where we have inadvertently got caught up in the human experience beyond our own consciousness. And so we're being called to be co-creators, not to take responsibility for the bad stuff, but to start to align to the good stuff, the stuff we want. And to see how much percentage do I spend 50% of my time looking at my crap and 50% of my time looking at the good stuff? Or do I spend 90% of the time looking at my crap and I can't even imagine my good stuff anymore because I've been so busy over here? This is where we're trying to create balance. All right, on to our Leos, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Again, I'll repeat, a stellium is 3, really 4 planets in one sign or house, indicating a focus in the soul's evolvement. The minute summer was over, it's become 80 degrees outside. And I'm locked in the house with the windows shut so you don't hear the highway. All right, Leo, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Our first angel is Isabella. Second is Archangel Raphael. The third is Ray. And the final is Archangel Michael. Isabella is being joined by the Joy card. Archangel Raphael is being joined by the Wealth card. Ray is being joined by the Fire Fairy. And Archangel Michael is being joined by the Risk card. We have Jupiter and Saturn will be going direct in October in Aquarius, which is in opposition to this house of Leo. So at the very least, your sun is in Leo. I say this because there may feel this push-pull a little bit right now. And I feel as if, again, our perceptions are very much being called into play because Leo represents fun. Leo rules the zodiac. The sun combusts every planet that it becomes conjunct to or next to. So it is so powerful, and it rules the most fun things in the zodiac: children, our hobbies, entertainment, pleasure, cookouts outdoors, any sort of summer fun. And I think it's time for Leo to focus in on the things that bring you joy, to literally make, no matter how dark the rest of the world may seem, if you enjoy doing the crossword puzzle, give yourself permission to do that crossword puzzle. I feel like this is where the real healing will come in. If not, oops, I dropped the card. Hold on a second. Ugh. I'm at that age where I groan when I bend over. It's so attractive. Okay, so this wealth card is harmonious wealth. And this is the angel, Archangel Raphael is the angel of physical healing. And I feel like the idea of fun, of joy, of pleasure, of unabashed pleasure, honestly, like almost taking a break from all of your worries. It kind of, it's like this, Leo. Back in 2017, I took my first vacation as an entrepreneur. And frankly, my only vacation as an entrepreneur. But when I went, I didn't feel necessarily financially flush in order to go spend all that money I was going to do on vacation. But I made this deal with Spirit that I was going to unabashedly enjoy myself. I wasn't going to buy things just to buy them. I was going to do things I enjoyed and not worry about spending the money. And in making that deal with spirit, I found myself very busy on the backside. When I got home, the phone didn't stop ringing. It even started ringing before I left vacation, because now is a time to connect with spirit about what brings you joy, and to know that when you spend time playing, you actually bring more abundance into your world. You actually take the resistance and stress off of things, and it starts to open things up. And you're like, oh my God, when I was staring at this, it wasn't working. And then I relaxed and everything started to fall into place, because it's a risk. Archangel Michael talks about protection. He's the great protector, archangel of protection, but also courage to take the risk, to do what brings you joy, and to adopt a joyful attitude in general. It's to start to look for the cup half full. It's about finding the silver lining. There's going to be many, challenging situations coming up in the outside world, and we can look at TV and we can get scared out of our minds between all the various elements going on. I don't need to tell anybody. Even if you're living under a rock, you can feel it. So this is about shifting your focus. And then as the leader that Leo is, it shows that when I'm co-creating with the universe and I'm aligned to a wisdom behind it, the disruption's over here. If I turn my back on that disruption, something can happen to heal it that I don't have to worry about. I don't have to deal with it. I don't have to manage it. And that's where the real power lies. And that's where the real risk lies. That almost every human on earth will say, if there's a problem, I need to address the problem. But if you follow history, the people that are the most successful are not the people that focus on the problem. They focus on the solution. And if they can't find the solution, they're focused on the resources to create the solution. Rarely are they focused on the problem as an uphill to climb. All right, let's go on to our Virgos. Rising moon, sun, and stallions. As I start to shuffle, pardon me, for Virgo, your ruling planet Mercury is retrograde. And I have this saying that I'm fabulously flawed. I used to work with this woman, Helen, and she used to give me so much crap about my frizzy hair. And I used to tell her, Helen, I'm fabulously flawed. I've been to therapy. I got over it. Now it's your turn. And I feel like I say this lovingly to my Virgos, you're fabulously flawed. I feel like this Mercury retrograde is giving you an opportunity to realize that perfection is not a goal. It's a prison. Not even a golden noose. It's a straight up isolation tank. Solitary confinement. All right, here we go, Virgo. Azure is in the foundational position. Seraphina is in the opportunity or the obstacle. Grace and Antoinette is in the angel's advice. And Astera is in the final position. All right, Virgo. Azure is being joined by the High Priestess. Seraphina is being joined by the Horse. Grace and Antoinette is being joined by the Frog. And Astera is being joined by the Truth. As I look at this, the first thing I think of when I saw that Truth card is that the truth has nothing to do with another person, but everything to do with what Virgo wants. And this is a dig deep truth, not a superficial truth, because Azure says your desired outcome will happen in the near future. Have patience and faith and don't try to force it. And then there's the High Priestess. And this feels like an inner calling to me. It almost feels like this affects maybe more seasoned Virgos than our young ones, meaning those that are in their 20s may not feel this as much as people who are a little bit older. But I feel like Virgo is being yearning, and there's this nagging inside the high priestess to allow what you want to experience in the way of consistency. It's almost as if I want to go to Virgo and say that if you're in a job and I don't even think it's the tasks of the job, but the consistency of the personalities around you. You know, let's all be a team player. Let's all remember we're on the same team kind of idea, rather than feeling like one person's doing all the work and somebody else is doing all the relaxing. And it could be the same thing in a relationship, because when I go to the opportunity or the obstacle, there's Seraphina saying there's a happy change to the family, but the horse is riding into the spread, and it represents accepting help from another and delegating authority. And I feel like it's sort of like this, that if Virgo needs help, you get to ask for it and then not manage it. If it's right, it's right. If not, it's fabulously flawed. Okay, I'm going back to that beginning, because I feel a little bit like this doesn't feel like it has a genre, like a specific lane that Virgo's looking at, but rather a general lane, that the things you want to experience. And what I feel like I want to experience ease, a consistency, a flow. I don't feel like I'm looking for any big highs and lows, but rather more peace of mind, and just to sort of go about my day, do my business, enjoy my life, and be left alone. And I feel like a little bit of that is to start to take some of the burden off of yourself. So if if this is a work situation, then maybe you need to reach out and start to say, I need to help. I need some help with this project. If it's a relationship, then it's about compassionately speaking to the other party about what your wants and needs are in the way of cleaning up this emotional problem, and having compassion, not just for the other person, but for yourself as you learn how to communicate that. We are in a huge retrograde. We've been in a retrograde season, and now these planets are starting to go forward. Their impact as they start to move forward is sort of like, and then push, because as you reach for the stars with your dreams and desires, don't compromise. And that not compromising is a deeper truth. And I want to say this, I don't know that I'm telling somebody else my deeper truth. Because Virgo, if you're telling someone else your deeper truth, are you looking for them to agree or approve of it? Or even are you expecting their resistance of it? So this is where I'm going. The deeper truth that I'm talking about is that I need and want flow in my life. I want a certain sense of consistency and dependability, and everything's felt wonky. And so maybe Virgos overburdened themselves because of that. If I don't do it, I won't know how it's going to play out. I can't trust the consistency. But now we need to delegate that to somebody else, or we need to reach out to somebody else to take the burden off ourselves. And we need to have compassion with ourselves as we realize that we can't do it all, that we need help. And the deeper truth is that you are still perfect or fabulously flawed, which I prefer, because perfection feels like a prison to me. And this is about my deeper truth to myself. So real quickly, Virgo, and I'm repeating myself, but I'm assuming that you've gone to the timestamps and you haven't heard the other readings, because I have had an emotional situation with a member of my family where I have a certain habit of reaction, and it's one of sadness. It's one of feeling invisible and not seen and really criticized. And recently there was a dynamic where those things came into play. And when I sat back away from it, I realized I didn't really feel those things anymore, because I didn't care the same way. And I felt a sense of relief in removing myself from this situation versus trying to go in and fix it, go in and fix it, go in and fix it. So sometimes we delegate authority not to another human being, but to spirit. I'm powerless over that person's perception of me. I'm powerless over what they think. Virgo, you're ruled by Mercury. So the deeper truth is I actually feel good with a little space. the deeper truth is I feel good, even though it may feel like I should be sad about this. I'm not. And maybe through that, there can actually be a reconciliation of some kind, either with the other party or within yourself, and you come to peace with it. All right, let's go on to our Libras. Happy birthday, my fellow Librans. As we start the season of harvest, and we are harvesting these planets, meaning they're going forward. 4 planets moving forward in 1 month. That's pretty significant. All right. Our first angel is Archangel Gabriel for Libra, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. In the opportunity, the obstacle is Shanti. In the angel's advice is Bridget. And in the final position is Desiree. Archangel Gabriel is joined by the frog. Shanti is being joined by the fire fairy. Bridget is being joined by the Grail Knight. And Desiree is being joined by the movement card. Archangel Gabriel represents communications and insecurity about that communications. And the frog represents the releasing of emotional baggage. And with Libra being a compromising sign, it's a sign of contracts, a sign of cooperation, the sign of harmony, the sign of justice and fairness. And occasionally, if not often, fairness doesn't come into play in the human experience. And so when I look at this and I see Archangel Gabriel and I see the frog, I feel as if on some level, Libra gets an opportunity to there's a sense of weird sadness about, sometimes about how the world is. As a Libra, I'm really I would prefer a kumbaya situation. I'm sure everybody would, but there is a wisdom to disruption. There's a wisdom to those shadow sides and the clouds and the darkness. And it's my job as a balanced, evolved soul to look for that, to see the wisdom in the darkness, to see what Pluto has to offer the caterpillar when it becomes the butterfly, because that's what I think this is about. It's about going to spirit and talking to Archangel Gabriel about the cleanup, about being able to leap past maybe the shadow side of what's going on in the world or within our personal lives and to see the wisdom of it. Because in the opportunity or the obstacle is Shanti, and Shanti is the angel of peace, but she doesn't bestow peace on a human like a gift. The human doesn't even receive peace very well. It makes it very uncomfortable. You've heard it, oh, things have been going pretty good, so something bad's got to happen. I think what Shanti is offering is that the peace comes from our ability to see the wisdom in the darkness, not to be inauthentically optimistic, but to dig deeper. There's a word called serendipity, and it's a fortunate mistake, a mistake that appears disruptive and unpleasant, but then turns out well. And I think that's what this is about for Libra, because in the angel's advice is Bridget asking you to look deeper into a situation, because I believe the Grail Knight is bringing up illusions that would otherwise lead you down a road of certain amount of feeling good or secure or going down one path, and all of a sudden that illusion pops up and you find yourself in a whole different place you didn't expect. Because as you talk to spirit, and you give them your concerns, your trepidations, you'll find movement through the storm, and you'll also potentially find a wisdom. And I want to offer it this way. I don't know why I want to say this to Libra, but let's say you were actually wanting to endeavor in a partnership and you haven't met somebody yet, or you are a couple with a Libra dominant female, and you haven't had a baby yet. If you think about it, these have been tumultuous times. And if you follow astrology, you would know that the aspects that these children are being born into can be very challenging. These are strong souls coming through right now because they are going to be the cleanup crew for this transformation. They're going to be the representatives of the new order, the ascension. So maybe there's a wisdom to the challenge. Maybe there's a timing issue and you have no control over that. When I was younger, I wanted to do this work. I'm mid-century modern. I'll be 62 years old in a couple of weeks, and there was no internet and there was no Yelp. And as I evolved and became just stuck to my guns of what was my passion, which is this work, then the world evolved around me and the place and the path and the opportunity opened up. But I could not have done anything about it. The rest of the world had to catch up, and there may be something going on about that for Libra. So let's go on to our Scorpios. Scorpio, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Your ruling planet, Pluto, will be going forward on October 6th. Today is October 1st, and Pluto retrograde is making a square to Mercury retrograde. So your mind may be feeling a little funky today. Your speech may be feeling a little tense. You may be wrestling with some inner feelings versus what you're seeing in the outside world. Lots of transformation. I can hear you all saying, duh. All right, we have Opal in the foundational position, Scorpio. We have Celeste in the opportunity or the obstacle, Omega in the angel's advice, and Archangel Gabriel in the final position. It's funny, I was just talking about having children for Libra at the end there. Opal represents God being in charge of our children, caring for them and keeping them happy and well. And I tend to think when I talk to such a large group, this is not about physical children that you bore or that you want to bear, but rather the inner child. So let's see, Scorpio. Opal's being joined by the mystery card. Celeste is being joined by the wind fairy. Omega is being joined by the letting go card. And Archangel Gabriel is being joined by the joy card. The mystery card represents choice. The human, the soul inhabiting the human vessel always has choice. Karma is actually a series of choices. There's nobody in the sky saying, you're a bad person, so you're going to get this, and you're a good person, so you're going to get that. Karma is concentrated thought, which leads to choices, which leads to sometimes repetitive experiences because the concentrated thought is aligned to it. And so what I want to say here for Scorpio is I feel like your inner child is asking you to make new choices, to dig deep into the experience you've had as an adult and to look at your own thought process. I talked about Celeste oftentimes. Celeste on the face of this card represents a new home or new place of employment, but more times than not, I will talk about a shift in my thought. And with the wind fairy here, it's absolutely a shift in my thought. Starting to think about maybe some of my challenges have been leading me towards my triumphs. Maybe some of that darkness has been leading me into the light, because it's time to start to rewrite those stories. The letting go card for me is never about letting something go. I find that counterintuitive. If I've experienced it, I can't pretend it didn't happen. I'm hardwired that way, but the victory comes. Omega represents victory, to keep up the good work, is in the ability to seek out the wisdom in dark situation, or in any situation for that matter. What is the wisdom here? What was I aligned to during that dynamic? I have the strangest thing, but there's this one restaurant that when I first went to it, when it opened, I had a really good experience. And then the two subsequent visits were terrible. And then I got into this thought. I could literally see myself go to that restaurant and imagine a bad meal. And every single time it worked out that way. And while I could think, oh, I'm victim, they're always making me bad food, I can own that I concentrate on that thought. Because now is time to start to concentrate on thoughts that are more joyous. Start having a conversation with myself where I win rather than lose, where there are compromises happening. And I want to offer it like this, because sometimes when we start to focus on happy thoughts, we create scenarios. And if that exact scenario doesn't happen, then the happy thought didn't happen. So I want to open it up to a wider and broader perspective, sort of like, let's say you're going to actually move to a new home. Rather than saying, I live in, Beverly Hills, or I live in this affluent neighborhood, you say, I live in a place where I love my neighborhood. I love what I see when I look out my windows. I love the way I feel so harmonious and cozy when I walk into the door. Start to come at it from that emotive place. I think that'll be very powerful, regardless of the genre that you're talking about. I think for this month, Scorpio, the focus is on transforming from what has been, which feels like the caterpillar, arduous, walking little steps on this twig into that dark place of coming clean with what you really want, not what you think you can get. And then rather than trying to see where you're going to get it from, emote it. It feels like this. I feel like this. I feel it consistently. I feel it to my bones. It feels solid and real. And that's how you become the co-creator, by aligning your thoughts to your joy. All right, let's go on to Sagittarius, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Sagittarius, your ruling planet Jupiter is going from retrograde to moving forward on the same day that Mercury is, which is very interesting. Our first angel is Fiona. The second is Desiree. The third is Crystal. And the final is, and I got two cards, so I pulled them both, Archangel Michael and Isabella. I say this because I believe that for Sagittarius, your thoughts will turn. You may start feeling a lot more positive than you have been. And I want to say it in such a way that you may start to see evidence in your everyday world. Hello, Mercury, my everyday activities, and evidence that things are starting to move in the right direction. So if indeed others around you are experiencing disruption, I want you to think of yourself as a lighthouse of faith. Because whenever there is challenging times, there are always humans that thrive during those challenging times. And it doesn't have to be because they have the most resources materially, but rather they have the most resources within their faith and their heart. And I think you have an opportunity to demonstrate that, not only for others, but for yourself. And I say that purposely because you may not even realize that you have that much power. Fiona's being joined by the Merlin, the magic wizard. We have Desiree and the Letting Go card. We have Crystal and the Grail Knight. And we have Archangel Michael and Isabella being joined by the dog. It's interesting to me because this feels very much about Sagittarius, it rules higher knowledge, master's degrees, PhDs, high certifications at a high level of prowess and focus. It also represents our deeper beliefs, religion. Who am I? What's the purpose of who I am and what I am? And I feel like this is an opportunity for you to truly connect to that bigger picture of this is about alchemy, justice, and balance. Merlin. And there's a certain amount of the alchemy, there's a certain amount of pressure that comes through. And I feel like Fiona's saying, now that you've asked God and the angels for help, be open to receiving their guidance. The guidance is the bigger picture, okay? This is like, you say to Spirit, I want to be in a happy relationship. And then you're not in a happy relationship. Or I want, and so you're trying to pretend that relationship is really what you want, but there's things missing, because I feel like in the opportunity, the obstacle for Sagittarius, Desiree is saying that conditions aren't favorable. And I think that this is about really starting to look at whatever the dynamics are that you want to experience, and if they are truly aligned to what you want, because I think illusions are being brought up. I think that's part of what has been going on, and the illusion of, like, this is what I think is an illusion. I have a job and I go there every day and I make money, and I'm happy because I have money to pay my bills at the end of the week. And yet you really don't like that job. You really don't make that much money at that job. But it gives a sense of security, because at the end of that week, you're going to have this amount of money. I think that thought has to be reworked. And not reworked from an amount of money that will make you happy, but the elements that make you happy. And then Spirit provides the resources, because I say it's now a time to have faith. Hello, Sagittarius, you represent faith in things that are conceptual, that are out there in the universe, waiting to be plucked out through the laws of attraction and allowing, and to bow down to your truth so illusion can be wiped away. I don't deserve, I can't make it, I don't know how it's going to show up, because now is the time to have courage. Yes, the timing is right for this new venture of loyalty and sincerity to yourself about what you love. So I'll give you another example, because I don't think this is in one genre. I think this is specific to the Sagittarian that's listening to this right now. When I was starting to work for myself, I thought money would make me happy. I thought I want to change the world. I want to, influence many people to their best lives ever. And as I've done this work, I've had to ask myself, do I believe in myself? And as I believe that it's not me, I believe in my connection to Spirit, and that is being divinely guided, and I'm allowing Spirit to bring me the things I want, and I'm willing to stand in the magic of that creation. And in doing so, I have to be uncertain about the material dynamic of it. And then Spirit brings that material dynamic to me, which then appeases my fears and helps me to trust the unknown at a deeper level of what I want. Because at the end of the day, what I realized is I don't need or want money. I want ease. I want freedom. I want independence. I want to do what I want to do when I want to do it, and know that all the resources will be there. And as I've aligned to that, it started to happen. And it happens more and more and more as I look at the disruptions in my life and how they're bringing me closer and closer to what I want. And that's the whole theme of what's been going on since Uranus went into Taurus. It's sort of to break up fixed energy that feels safe and secure, but really is based on an old historic dynamic that only served some and wasn't truly equal for all. Okay. Whew. Let's go on to our Capricorns, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. I thought of you yesterday. I was watching something, and all these baby goats ran into this room, just adorable little baby goats. And I thought to myself, that's how I see Capricorn. I don't see Capricorn as the old cranky goat anymore. Only gets old and cranky when I'm not doing what I love. Common theme with my work. All right, here we go. Ooh, huh. And Bethany flies out of the deck for Capricorn, self-care. And this isn't about a manicure, a pedicure, taking a shower, and brushing your teeth. It's the big self-care. Capricorn can represent stoic behaviors that they don't particularly like, but they're obligated and duty bound to. Now this is about rewriting that, because it also represents leadership. And being a leader for the things that you love, then the hard work is not so bad. We have Vanessa representing faith or fear. We have Daniel representing marriage and partnership. And we have Layla representing time, communing with God and the angels. It's hard when you feel obligated to something you love and yet you hate the obligation of it. You want to be free from it, and yet you don't want to destroy the dynamic of the situation. So Bethany is being joined by the Joy card. Vanessa is being joined by the Protection card. Daniel's been joined by the Serpent, and Layla's being joined by the Hawk. The first thing I thought when I looked at this for Capricorn is that if you were to take care of yourself, then you would be suffering in other ways. It's almost as if, you're afraid that somebody will be angry with you or retaliate against you if you put yourself first, because they're so used to having you put them first, or your job first, or something that you feel obliged to. Because Bethany and the Joy card are in the foundational position, and Capricorn, you've had Pluto transiting your house forever and a day. And I truly, truly believe that this planet, well, it will always be fraught with challenges. When we work towards what we find joyful, those challenges are the ingredients for our exhilaration, our empowerment, our achievement, our jumping up and down, excited. So it's time to start to put your joy first, and to know and have faith that your dynamic, the relationships that you love, and the history of the people around you is protected, that they will actually enjoy this dynamic of you. And this is not about putting yourself first in a dutiful way. Remember, we've got the Joy card here. We've got the Joy card. This is hobbies, activities, things that are fun, fishing and shopping and playing ball and dancing and singing and everything that's fun. Because Daniel, while he represents marriage, he represents the history of partnership that we bring in, and it's time to shed a new skin. And the new skin looks like, not like the other person, it looks like you. If you allow yourself to be a baby goat instead of the old goat, what will happen? And in the final position, I have Layla and the Hawk. And what I find for Capricorn is I don't know. I'm nervous about it, Spirit. I don't know how to take care of myself in a way that is not about taking care of life maintenance things. It's kind of like the person that works 6 days a week for, 2-3 weeks. They get so used to working every single day that on that day off, they do their laundry, they clean their house, they go right back into the routine, that when they actually have time to have fun, they don't even know how to have fun. I feel like Capricorn has to learn how to have a little bit more fun right now. Rise above all that duty and obligation, and to put yourself first, because I think you'll actually be better for everybody else. So if this is, because I feel like this has straight up to do with your partnerships, because if you're aging in a way that you're getting, when I say aging, I don't mean getting old. I mean, as relationships are seasoning, as you're getting used to each other, as you've known each other for a long time, you may have this habitual way of perceiving a reaction. And even that, if you can give life to a little bit of a new idea, could give you a new experience, which would then give you a new perception and a new perspective. I've been feeling, as Pluto's been transiting Capricorn, I've really been feeling that it's not just about, the what Capricorn means to the world, because it rules the 10th house. That's the most public house in the zodiac. It's where we see our leaders, our government leaders, our city leaders, our people that we revere. And I think it's now time for you to allow for the transformation of that, not to just be about what you do in the way of work, but how you bring joy into the situation and give it equal footing. Because the saying, work hard, play hard, is balance. Work hard is not so great. And that's in whatever genre Capricorn is doing. It's going to come up this month. It's all these planets moving forward. It's going to come up for review. And I think the most challenging thing for Capricorn is deciphering whether or not you're actually doing this because you want to, or you've done it for so long you don't know how to not do it anymore. Whatever it is that's pulling your joy away from you, your fun time, your playtime, your relaxation time. Okay, on to Aquarius. Woo, lots of stuff going on for Aquarius. Not only are we entering the age of Aquarius, I'm so excited about, we have lots of activity going on with Jupiter and Saturn being there. And Saturn making that square to Uranus in Taurus. All right, here we go. Aquarius. Rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Our first angel is Opal. The second is Francesca. The third is Archangel Raphael. And the final is Akasha. Aquarius is ruled by Saturn in ancient times, traditionally, and then Uranus in more modern times. Uranus rules the nervous system and anxiety and stress in a little bit, because anxiety and stress kind of go hand in hand. Opal's being joined by the horse. Francesca's being joined by the cat. Archangel Raphael's being joined by the butterfly. And Akasha's being joined by the queen. The reason I brought up the anxiety is because I feel like if Aquarius has been feeling a little bit anxious or unsure, a little nervous, free-floating anxiety, I don't think that that is something that is like something bad is going to happen, as much as I feel like it's an inner calling to an inner knowing. Uranus rules space. It rules technology and innovation. It rules moving the story forward. And I feel like there could be a part of you, because Saturn rules old structures. It rules old age. It rules things, tradition. So if indeed you're feeling this push-pull between what used to be and what you feel obligated to, and then this new adventure that you want to go on, a new direction, new innovative dynamic within your life, I think it could be creating anxiety, because you may feel that obligation. And I feel like you get to trust that anxiety as an inner knowing to giving you a green light, at least emotionally, to start to move in that direction. Because when I look at Opal saying that God and the angels are watching over your children, I feel like this is the inner child for Aquarius. And it's time to start to move towards that. Literally let the horse bring you more in alignment with an innovative version of yourself. And I'm going to say this, and I'm going to go to the final position, and then I'll run through the other two, because Akasha is the spiritual teacher and the ability to counsel others, and there's the queen. And I think that this is really about being a teacher, but not a teacher that talks to others, but rather people observing you, aligning and moving towards what's most authentic to you and your inner child, and then seeing how the universe is lining up to bring those experiences for you. There is so much disruption ahead of us on a big scale. As far as the world goes, we're reaching new heights of balance, and in order for that balance to be achieved, we have to disrupt the imbalance, which is going to make people nervous. So as you trust your inner knowing, Aquarius, you rule humanity. You rule the innovation of humanity in many ways, and that is accessed by your own unique expression. So as you move towards that, you are inadvertently teaching people how to receive bounty from the universe, because you're co-creating with no resistance. So here, in your opportunity, your obstacle, is Francesca saying, what do you visualize right now? Focus on it and it will come about. Negativity will block your progress. And the good news about this is Aquarius is pre-wired to think independently and to realize that you have 9 lives. And I feel like that independent thought and the surrender to that independent thought brings solace, brings comfort to you, and a sense of healing as you go through this transformation. When I say this transformation, I mean it in such a way that it's about moving again towards this. I'm not being selfish by wanting me to be happy. I'm actually creating happiness for myself so that I perpetrate happiness out into the masses, the vibration. And so now that my challenges become opportunities for me to see how resourceful I am, how I know how to pivot, how I know how to anchor in my bounty. The 11th house rules our hopes and dreams. Aquarius rules our hopes and dreams. It rules money. It's one of the wealth houses. So as you step more and more towards what's important to you, other people may not necessarily understand it initially, but it will bring you to where, or closer to where you want to be, which will be an invitation to others. And in doing so, you will inadvertently counsel them. All right, let's go on to our final sign of Pisces. You have the last planet retrograde in your house, Neptune. I kind of like Neptune retrograde in Pisces because it's floating around in its house of rulership, giving us dreams and fantasies, dreamy time within our quiet time. 12th house rules bedrooms, hotels, spas, ashrams, past lives. All right, here we go. Pisces, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Our first angel is Daniel, the angel of marriage. We have Layla in the opportunity, the obstacle. We have Celeste in the angel's advice, and then we have Shanti, the angel of peace. You know, it's not happening right away, but Jupiter, which represents the husband in ancient astrology, will be moving into Pisces. It's natural. It's the ancient ruler of Pisces. So this could very well be partnerships coming up for many of you Pisces. Or Virgo rising too, because Virgo rising has Pisces 7th house partnerships. Whoops. All right, the Lady of the Lake is joining Daniel, the angel of marriage. Layla is being joined by the perception card. Celeste is being joined by the risk card, and Shanti is being joined by the dog. Okay. I feel like if indeed Pisces is in a relationship, then it's time to start to review the history of that relationship with more courage and authenticity about your co-creation. You may be the good cop in the situation, but if your perception is aligned to this always happens, then you are co-creating part of the challenge, because Daniel is the angel of marriage. And there's the Lady of the Lake asking you to be courageous and to be responsible for your own emotional body, your own mental body, as she holds Excalibur with the lightest touch. Excalibur only came out of the stone for the most pure night, with the purest of intentions. And I feel like for Pisces, wanting to be in a relationship could be something that is very important to you, and yet you may not be readily to admit it. You don't need to admit it to another human being, but to allow yourself to admit it to yourself, because there's a perception about what you think you can and cannot get. So if we think about the idea that Pisces rules past lives, it rules time alone. It rules prisons and hospitals. So if there's a little bit of feeling of isolation attached to partnerships, you may inadvertently feel like that's always going to happen. And now it's time to risk a different thought, because Celeste represents a new thought to me, shifting from one place to another. And in many ways, it's not anything that's tried, true, and tested, because inherently in risk, there is a sense of unknowing. Celeste will traditionally represent a physical move to a home or a physical move to a new job, which may be in the works for you. But I also think it more so representing a perception, a perspective, because my perspective and my perception is going to dictate my actions no matter where you put me on the planet. And I think more than anything for Pisces, this idea of the dog, unconditional love, loyalty, and sincerity, Shanti, the angel of peace. This is about wanting peace in my relationships, wanting to actually let my history sit where it sits in the rearview mirror. It's not about ignoring my history, but it's also not about trying to drive the car of my life from my story, but rather allowing the windshield to give me broader sight. Because for those of you that have been in a relationship for a long time, I have seen people walk through very dark nights of the soul as a couple and come out stronger on the other side. And most of the time it was because they took the victimhood and the perpetrator out of the situation and started to focus in on what do we really want? How do I want to show up? Even if I have been the victim of certain behaviors. And if I'm the perpetrator of those behaviors, what is the deeper truth of why I'm perpetrating them? And am I willing to be authentic with myself? Because sometimes we're not honest with ourselves, so we can't be honest with others, and the behavior continues. And we continue to feel disempowered by it. So this is an inside job for Pisces to go in and look, where have I been swimming away from things sometimes when I should just stay where I am? And give Spirit a minute to bring me a new experience so that I can feel feelings of peace and of loyalty and sincerity in my relationship. I find myself lately saying to my people that are dating people, give it a minute. Don't let your story dictate how you're perceiving what's happening right now. There's a lot of reasons why someone may not contact you right away. And then I say the Mercury retrograde and I get the eye roll and the, oh my God. But then on the backside of that, we may find that there was mixed communications on the other side, or there was situations and things going on in the life of that person that interrupted this over here. And this is really beautiful because then it gives an opportunity for you to think, oh, I'm deserving of everything I want in love. I didn't do anything. I just need to give that person the grace to walk through what they're walking through. And maybe they'll even recognize that grace and show appreciation. And then we'll be building a stronger relationship. I found myself starting to talk too softly. Okay, guys, that's it for me for our October Heavenly Horoscopes. I'll be back with our new moon in Libra in a few days. That's next Wednesday, I believe, the 6th. And until then, have a great October. Enjoy and be gentle with yourself as the planets station and the energies can be a little bit wobbly, cranky, and unconscious. All right, everybody, I'm Teri Hunter. If you'd like to book a personal reading with me, the information is below in the description. Peace out.